I drove 800 miles to get to my daughter Clara's wedding. I knocked on her door at 6 o'clock in the morning, my suitcases in hand, and my heart full of emotion. When she opened the door, her first reaction wasn't an embrace. She looked at me as if I were a stranger and said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know you were coming." In that moment, something inside of me broke. 71 years lived, 800 miles driven, and my own daughter was acting as if my presence were an inconvenience. But that was nothing compared to what came next. My son-in-law, Julian, appeared behind her with that phony smile that had always given me a bad feeling, and he let slip the words that would change everything forever. "She thinks $63,000 guarantees your presence here." My blood ran cold, not because of the amount I had given for her wedding, but because of the coldness with which he said it, as if I were an investor, not a mother. My name is Eleanor. I am 71 years old, and for decades I believed that being a good mother meant giving everything without expecting anything in return. Clara is my only child. I raised her alone after her father abandoned us when she was just 8 years old. I worked double shifts. I sacrificed. I sold my car. I mortgaged my house, all so she could have the best. I paid for her college education, her first apartment, her new car. When she met Julian 3 years ago, I thought she had finally found happiness. How wrong I was. Julian turned out to be a manipulator who slowly pushed Clara away from me. At first, it was subtle comments. "Your mom is very nosy. Don't you think it's time for you to be independent? She treats you like you're a little girl." I watched as my daughter changed as she grew colder toward me. But I thought it was part of growing up, of starting her own family. When they asked me for money for the wedding, I didn't hesitate for a second. $63,000 was practically all of my retirement savings, but it was for my daughter's happiness. "Mom, we want a perfect wedding," Clara told me with tears in her eyes. "You've always been so generous with us. I promise we'll pay you back." A lie. It was all a lie. The day I transferred the money, Julian told me, "Eleanor, since you're paying for the wedding, you'll obviously be in the front row." I thought it was a joke in poor taste. How could I not be at my own daughter's wedding? But when I arrived that morning after driving all night, I realized that to them I was just a walking bank account. "I didn't know you were coming," Clara repeated, without even inviting me inside. She was wearing a pink silk robe, getting ready for the most important day of her life, and I was an obstacle. Julian stepped closer and added, "Eleanor, the ceremony is very intimate. Just close family." Close family. As if I weren't her mother. As if I hadn't been the one who comforted her during nightmares. Who cared for her when she was sick. Who worked until I bled to give her everything she needed. "But I am your mother," I said to Clara, feeling my voice break. "I am your closest family." She looked away, clearly uncomfortable. "Mom, it's just that we already have everything organized. The seating at the church, the reception. It's all calculated." Calculated. Such a cold word to describe her wedding day. Julian took control of the conversation as he always did. "Look, Eleanor, we really appreciate your contribution, but Clara and I decided we want a small ceremony for just our nearest and dearest." Nearest and dearest. I, who had given everything for that girl, was not part of the nearest and dearest. It was in that moment that something shifted inside me. A coldness I had never felt before spread through my entire body. I looked at Clara, searching her eyes for any trace of the child I had raised. But I only found indifference. I had raised a stranger. I had loved someone who saw me as an atom. "I understand," I finally said with a calmness that surprised even me. "I understand perfectly," Julian smiled, thinking he had won. Clara sighed in relief, believing the awkward moment had passed. But they didn't know that I had secrets, too. Secrets that were about to change all the rules of the game. I walked to my car with my dignity intact, but my heart in pieces. As I started the engine, I took out my phone and dialed my bank. "Good morning. I need to freeze a transfer I made 2 weeks ago." The voice on the other end of the line was professional and efficient. "Of course, ma'am. What is the reason?" "Family fraud," I replied without hesitation. In 5 minutes, the $63,000 were frozen. Clara's perfect wedding had just turned into her worst nightmare. But this was only the beginning. As I drove back into the city, my phone started ringing. Once, twice, 3 times. I let it ring. I knew exactly who it was and why they were calling. The bank notification had arrived in Clara's account. Transfer frozen by sender. I could imagine Julian's face when he found out. I could imagine the panic in my daughter's eyes when she realized her perfect wedding was falling apart. But I wasn't going to answer.
Not yet.
After so many years of being the mother who was always available, who always solved the problems, who always said yes, it was time for them to learn what desperation felt like. It was time for them to know what it meant to need someone and have that person not be there. I checked into the most elegant hotel in the city, not the cheap motel where I always stayed when I came to visit them. This time, I wanted luxury. I wanted to feel valued, even if it was by strangers who treated me with respect in exchange for money. The receptionist gave me a genuine smile when I checked in. "Welcome, Mrs. Eleanor. We hope you enjoy your stay." How different it was to be treated like a distinguished guest instead of a nuisance. In my room, a suite with a view of the lake, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat down to wait. I didn't have to wait long. My phone exploded with calls. First call, Clara. Second call, Julian. Third call, Clara again. Fourth call, an unknown number, probably Julian from another phone. Fifth, sixth, seventh call. I let them all go to voicemail. Finally, I decided to listen to the messages. Clara's voice sounded desperate. "Mom, please. I need to talk to you. There was an error with the bank. Call me, please." An error. How convenient to call it an error now that she needed my money. The second message was from Julian, and his tone was completely different. "Eleanor, I don't know what little game you're playing, but this is serious. We have vendors to pay, a hall reserved, guests coming from out of state. Fix this immediately." A little game. That word made me laugh because if this was a game, I had just changed the rules and they didn't know I held all the winning cards. But what really shocked me was the third message, also from Julian. "Listen to me, you old woman. I don't know what's wrong with you, but if you don't fix this in the next 2 hours, you're going to regret it. Clara is crying because of you. Is that what you want? To make your own daughter suffer? Old woman?" He had called me an old woman and then had the gall to blame me for Clara's suffering. That was the last straw. I picked up my phone and dialed my lawyer's number. "Stephen, it's Eleanor. I need to see you first thing tomorrow morning. It's urgent." Stephen had been my lawyer for years, ever since the divorce. He knew my entire financial situation. He knew about my properties, my investments, everything that Clara and Julian were unaware of. "What's wrong, Eleanor? You sound upset." I told him everything, every detail, every humiliation, every cruel word. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Eleanor," he finally said, "are you sure you want to do this? Once we start, there's no going back. Stephen, for 71 years, I have been too good, too understanding, too generous. They have used me, manipulated me, treated me as if I were worthless. No more. I want them to know exactly who they messed with." That night, as I dined alone in the hotel's elegant restaurant, my phone continued to ring. I counted the calls. 41 in total. 41 desperate calls from 2 people who had never called me just to ask how I was. For 1 calls from 2 people who only remembered me when they needed something. But the calls weren't the worst part. It was the text messages. 12 messages that went from pleading to threats in a matter of hours. Clara started with, "Mom, please call me. We can talk about this later." Then, "I don't understand why you're doing this. I thought you wanted me to be happy." And finally, "If you ruin my wedding, I will never forgive you." But it was Julian's text that truly showed me his true colors. "Eleanor, this is ridiculous. Behaving like a child won't get you anywhere." Then we get the message. "You wanted attention. You've got it. Now give the money back." And the last one, the one that made me laugh out loud. "You're a bitter old woman who can't stand to see her daughter happy. You've always been a manipulator." A manipulator?
Me?
The woman who had given everything without asking for anything in return. The woman who had worked herself sick to pay for my daughter's whims. The woman who had kept silent when Julian filled her head with foolish ideas about my supposed interference in their relationship. I couldn't sleep that night, not from guilt or regret, but from adrenaline. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. I felt in control. I felt like the main character in my own life instead of a supporting character in the lives of others. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I decided to do something I had never done before: check Clara's social media. What I found both broke my heart and strengthened my resolve. Photo after photo of her showing off her engagement ring, her ivory wedding dress, her honeymoon plans. I wasn't in any of those posts. She never mentioned me in any of her stories. It was as if I didn't exist. But what hurt the most was a post she had made the week before. So grateful to my future husband for teaching me how to be independent. I finally understand that true love isn't dependence, it's freedom. Thank you, Julian, for helping me cut the chains that were holding me back.
Chains.
I was the chains. My motherly love, my sacrifice, my dedication, all of that was chains to her. Julian had brainwashed her so thoroughly that she no longer saw my love as love, but as manipulation. She no longer saw my generosity as generosity, but as control. It was in that moment that I made my final decision. It wasn't just about the wedding money. It wasn't just about the humiliation of that morning. It was about years of being invisible, of being taken for granted, of being treated like a resource instead of a person. I took out my laptop and began writing emails to my contacts, researching my rights, making plans for the next few days. If Clara and Julian wanted a war, they were going to get one. But this time, I had the heavy artillery. Because what they didn't know was that I wasn't just a retired mother with some savings. I was a woman with properties, investments, contacts, and most importantly, with the truth on my side. For years, I had kept silent about many things. I had protected Clara from knowing certain details about her father, about our real financial situation, about the sacrifices I had made. But the silence was over. It was time for my daughter to know the whole truth. It was time for Julian to find out who he had really messed with. The sunrise found me awake, dressed, and ready for battle. 41 missed calls glowed on my phone screen. 12 threatening messages waited to be answered. But I was no longer the Eleanor of yesterday. I was no longer the mother desperate to please her daughter. I was a woman who had decided to reclaim her power. And this was just the beginning. At 7 in the morning, my phone rang again. This time I answered. It was Clara, and her voice sounded broken. "Mom, please, we need to talk. Come to the house." Her tone had completely changed. It was no longer the coldness of yesterday, but pure desperation. "Good morning, Clara," I replied with a calm that surprised even me. "How did you sleep, Mom? Don't play games with me. You know exactly why I'm calling. The bank says you froze the money. Why would you do something like that?" Her voice broke at the end of the sentence. For a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. But then I remembered her words from yesterday. "I didn't know you were coming." I remembered Julian's contemptuous face. I remembered how they had treated me like a stranger after I drove 800 miles to be there on the most important day of her life. "Clara, I think it's time we had a conversation we should have had a long time ago," I said. "But it's not going to be at your house. If you want to talk to me, we'll meet in the lobby of the Lakeshore Grand Hotel at 10 o'clock. And you come alone." "Alone? Why alone? Julian is my husband. He has a right to be present in our family conversations." There it was again. Julian controlling even the conversations between a mother and daughter. "Clara, Julian is not your husband yet. And if you want me to unfreeze that money, you either come alone or you don't come at all. You decide." There was a long silence. I could imagine her consulting with Julian, asking for permission to speak with her own mother. Finally, she sighed. "Fine. I'll be there at 10 o'clock. She hung up without saying goodbye. How far my little girl had strayed from the loving daughter who used to say, "I love you, Mom," before hanging up the phone. But I had more important things to do before that meeting. I called Stephen. "Good morning. Can we move up our appointment? I need to see you before 10 o'clock. Of course, Eleanor. How serious is this? Stephen, we're going to change my will completely. An hour later, I was in Stephen's office signing documents that Clara could never have imagined existed. Are you absolutely sure about this, Eleanor? He asked me for the third time. This is a very drastic decision. I looked him straight in the eye. Stephen, for years I have been a mother. I have put my daughter's needs before my own. I have sacrificed my happiness, my comfort, my dreams for her. And yesterday I discovered that to her, I am just a bank account. I am more sure of this than anything else in my life. The documents were ready. Stephen explained every detail, every consequence. Once you make this public, Clara is going to know exactly what she's losing. Are you prepared for that conversation? I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. Stephen, I've been preparing for that conversation my whole life. I just didn't know it. I arrived at the hotel 5 minutes before 10 o'clock. Clara was already there, sitting in a lobby armchair with her eyes red from crying. She was wearing a light green dress I had given her last year for her birthday. She looked small, fragile, like the little girl I used to comfort when she had nightmares. For a second, my mother's heart softened. But then I remembered Julian's words. She thinks $63,000 guarantees your presence. Mom, she said, standing up as she saw me, and tried to hug me. I took a step back. Sit down, Clara. We have a lot to talk about. Her eyes filled with tears when she saw me reject her embrace. Mom, why are you acting like this? I don't recognize you. You don't recognize me. That's interesting because I didn't recognize my daughter yesterday when she shut the door in my face. After I drove 800 miles to be at her wedding, I sat across from her, maintaining the distance. Tell me, Clara, at what point did you decide that your mother didn't deserve to be at the most important day of your life? Mom, it wasn't like that. It's just complicated. Complicated? What a convenient word to avoid taking responsibility. Julian thought it would be better to have an intimate ceremony for only the closest family. And I'm not close family? The woman who gave birth to you, who raised you alone, who worked double shifts to give you everything you needed. She's not close family. The tears started to stream down her cheeks. Of course, you're close family. You're my mother. But Julian says, you've always been very intense with me. That I need space to create my own family. Intense. That's the new word they found to describe my motherly love. I leaned forward. Clara, let me ask you a very simple question. Who paid for your college? You did, Mom. But who bought you your first car? You did. But who lent you the money for the apartment where you live now? You did, but I don't see what that has to do with anything. And who gave you $63,000 for your perfect wedding? Her face turned pale. You did, Mom. You've always been generous with me. That's why I don't understand. Why now? Why now? What, Clara? Why now am I refusing to be treated like an ATM? Why now am I refusing to be invisible in my own daughter's life? You're not invisible. You're very important to me. Her voice sounded desperate. Important. Clara, yesterday your fiancé told me that you too believed $63,000 guaranteed my presence at the wedding. As if I were a guest who had bought a ticket. As if my place in your life depended on how much money I gave you. Julian didn't mean it like that. He was just nervous about the wedding. You know how people get when they're stressed. There she was again, defending Julian, justifying the unjustifiable. Clara, do you know what the saddest part of all this is? You can't even see when someone is manipulating you anymore. Julian has brainwashed you so well that you now believe your mother's love is toxic. He hasn't brainwashed me. Julian helps me be independent. He helps me grow as a person. Independent. How ironic. Clara, you're not independent. You've gone from depending on me to depending on him. The difference is I never made you feel guilty for needing me. That's not true. Julian truly loves me. He wants what's best for me. What's best for you, and what's best for you includes humiliating your mother on your wedding day. It includes treating me like a stranger after everything I've done for you. Clara stood up, clearly agitated.
Mom, stop.
I came here to ask you to unfreeze the money. The wedding is tomorrow. We have everything paid for with that money. If you don't release it, we're going to be humiliated in front of all our guests. Oh, so now you need me. Now I'm important. What a coincidence that your filial love shows up just when you need something from me. I stood up too, looking her directly in the eye. Tell me one thing, Clara. In the last 6 months, how many times did you call me just to see how I was doing? How many times did you come to visit me without asking for something? Her silence was more eloquent than any answer.
Exactly.
0 times. The only time you talk to me is when you need something, money, favors, for me to watch your dog when you go on trips. But never. You never call just because you miss your mother. That's not true. I love you, Mom. You love me? Really? Then tell me, when was the last time you said, I love you, without it being attached to a request for money? Again, the silence. Another nail in the coffin. Clara, I'm going to tell you something I've never told you. Something I've kept secret all these years because I wanted to protect you. Her eyes widened with curiosity and fear. When your father left us, I had 2 options. I could have gone with him as he asked and left you with my sister, or I could stay with you and raise you by myself. Dad asked you to go with him? Her voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Clara. Your father asked me to leave everything and go with him to start a new life without you. He said you were too young, that you wouldn't remember us, that my sister would raise you well. Tears streamed freely down her face now. I chose to stay with you. I chose to be a single mother. I chose to sacrifice my chance at a new life because you were more important than anything in the world. My own voice broke. And now, 43 years later, my own daughter treats me like I'm an inconvenience. Mom, I didn't know. No, Clara, you didn't know because you never asked. You were never interested in how much it cost to raise you alone. You were never interested in how many nights I stayed up wondering if I was doing the right thing. You were never interested in the fact that I turned down 3 marriage proposals because no man was ever going to be more important than my daughter. The hotel lobby had become our stage of pain. Other guests glanced at us discreetly, but I no longer cared. This conversation had to happen. Do you know what the most painful part of all this is, Clara? You've become the very thing I tried to prevent. You've become someone who abandons their family when they no longer need them. Clara collapsed into the armchair, sobbing uncontrollably. Mom, I didn't want to hurt you. It was never my intention. It's just that Julian says. Enough, I shouted, and the entire lobby turned to look at us. Enough of what Julian says. Julian thinks. Julian's opinion. Where is Clara in all of this? Where is my daughter, who had a mind of her own? I don't know what to say, she replied, her voice that of a lost child. Julian helps me see things differently. He says, you've been very controlling, that you never let me grow up. Controlling. There was that word again. Clara, tell me something. When have I controlled you? When have I forbidden you from doing something you truly wanted to do? Well, you always had an opinion about my boyfriends. An opinion, not a prohibition. Remember David, that boy who hit you in college? Do you remember what I told you? Her eyes filled with recognition. You told me that no man had the right to lay a hand on me.
Exactly.
And was that control, or was that a mother's protection? It was protection, she admitted in a low voice. And what about Evan, the one who cheated on you with your best friend? Do you remember what I told you? You told me I deserved someone who respected me. And was that control, or was that love? Silence. So explain to me how Julian has convinced you that my love is control and his manipulation is freedom. Clara fell silent, processing my words. I could see the confusion in her eyes, the internal struggle between what she felt and what she had been taught to think. Mom, Julian doesn't manipulate me. He loves me. He loves you? Clara, a man who loves you doesn't push you away from your mother. A man who loves you doesn't make you choose between him and your family. A man who loves you doesn't convince you to treat the person who has loved you most in your life poorly. But he says I need to be independent. Clara, look around you. Look at this luxurious hotel where I'm staying. Do you think a dependent woman can afford this? Do you think a woman with no resources can freeze $63,000 as if it were pocket change? Her eyes widened in surprise. I hadn't thought of that. No, because Julian has made you believe I'm a needy old woman who depends on you too. But the reality is very different, my love. I took out my phone and showed her the screen. This is my main bank account. Read the figure. Her eyes widened like saucers. Mom, is this real? Very real. And this is just one of my accounts. Do you want to see the others? I don't understand where all this money came from. Work, smart investments, properties I bought when you were little. Remember those weekends I would take you to visit friends? I was actually looking at properties, making investments, building a future for both of us. Clara put her hands to her mouth. All this time you've had so much money, and you never told me for what? So you would love me for my money? So Julian would set his sights on my bank account instead of your heart. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for what I have. But Mom, if you have so much money, why did you work so hard? Why did you always say money was tight? Because I wanted to teach you the value of hard work. I wanted you to know that good things are earned. I wanted to raise you with values, not with whims. The tears returned to her eyes. Mom, I feel awful. I didn't know any of this. No, Clara, you didn't know because you never asked. In all these years, you were never interested in how I was really doing, what plans I had, what I dreamed for my future. You were only interested in what I could give you. That's not true. Her voice was less convincing each time.
No.
Then tell me, do you know what my favorite color is? Silence. Do you know what my favorite food is? More silence. Do you know what I like to do in my free time? The silence was deafening. You know nothing about me, Clara. To you, I'm just Mom, the one who solves problems and gives money. But I am Eleanor. I am a 71-year-old woman with tastes, preferences, dreams, and plans. I am a whole person, not just your mother. Mom, let me finish. Yesterday, when Julian said you two thought $63,000 guaranteed my presence, he confirmed what I already knew. To you too, my value is measured in money. As long as I can give, I'm useful. When I can't, I'll be disposable. Don't say that. You know I love you. You love me? Then answer this. Why on your entire social media page, in all your wedding photos, in all your posts about your happiness, do I never appear? Why do you never mention me? Why is it as if I don't exist in your life? Clara hung her head in defeat. Julian says that posting too much about family is in poor taste. And what do you say? What do you think? Or do you not think for yourself anymore? My voice hardened. Clara, when was the last time you made a decision without consulting Julian? He's my partner. It's normal to consult him on things. Normal. Is it normal for your partner to decide if you can mention your own mother on social media? Is it normal for your partner to have an opinion on whether your mother can come to your wedding? He just wants to protect me. Protect you from what? From your own mother? I leaned forward, staring at her intently. Clara, I'm going to tell you something.
I hope you understand.
Julian doesn't protect you from me. He isolates you from me. And there is a huge difference. I don't understand the difference. Protection gives you tools to face the world. Isolation takes away your tools so that you depend on the person isolating you. Julian doesn't want you to be strong. He wants you to be dependent on him. But he makes me feel special. Special or needed. Clara, have you ever wondered why Julian never had a problem with me paying your expenses, but he does have a problem with me maintaining a close relationship with you? Clara frowned, thinking.
I hadn't looked at it that way.
Of course not, because he's very clever. He lets you receive my money, but not my love. He lets you benefit from my generosity, but not from my wisdom. He makes you my heir, but not my daughter. Mom, you're confusing me. No, Clara, I'm clarifying things for you. For the first time in years, I'm telling you the unfiltered truth. I leaned back in the armchair, emotionally exhausted. Now, tell me, what's more important to you? The money for your wedding or the relationship with your mother?
Both.
Why do I have to choose? Because yesterday you two already chose. You chose the money when you closed the door on me. You chose the money when you treated me like a vendor instead of a mother. You chose the money when you humiliated me in front of my son-in-law. We didn't choose the money. Her voice sounded less certain.
No.
Then explain to me why Julian mentioned the $63,000 within the first 5 minutes of the conversation. Explain to me why his first concern wasn't apologizing for treating me poorly, but ensuring the money was still available. Clara fell silent, processing. I could see in her eyes that the pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together. Mom, what do you want me to do? I want you to think for yourself. Without Julian's influence, I want you to remember who you were before you met him. Were you more dependent on me, or were you more authentic? Silence. Clara, before Julian, when was the last time you spoke rudely to me? When was the last time you disrespected me? Another revealing silence. Never, she finally admitted. Never. Because I taught you to respect your mother. I taught you that family is sacred. I taught you values that Julian is destroying one by one. I stood up, tired of the conversation. Clara, I'm going to give you 24 hours to decide what's more important to you. If by this time tomorrow you haven't made a decision, I will make one for you. And I assure you, you won't like my decision. What decision, Mom? What are you going to do? That depends on you. But remember something. I have lived 71 years without Julian. I can perfectly well live another 20 without him. The question is, can you live without your mother? I walked away, leaving her there, sobbing in the hotel lobby. But this time, her tears didn't stop me. This time, my pain was stronger than my maternal instinct to comfort her, because it was time for Clara to learn that actions have consequences and that a mother's love, though infinite, is not unconditional when it comes to respect and dignity. That afternoon, I dedicated myself to doing something I hadn't done in years, taking care of myself. I went to the hotel spa, got a massage, a manicure, a pedicure. I got my hair cut at the fanciest salon in the city. I bought new clothes that made me feel powerful and elegant, because I had made a decision. I was no longer going to dress like the long-suffering mother everyone expected. I was going to dress like the successful woman I truly was. As I was trying on an elegant red dress in the most expensive boutique on Michigan Avenue, my phone rang. It was Julian. This time I decided to answer. Hello. My voice was cold, distant. Eleanor, we need to talk. His tone was no longer arrogant like yesterday. There was a note of nervousness that I enjoyed hearing. Speak, I said as I admired myself in the mirror. The red dress fit me perfectly. Look, I think there was a misunderstanding yesterday. Clara is very upset, and so am I. The wedding is tomorrow, and we need to sort this out. A misunderstanding? What a convenient word. There was no misunderstanding, Julian. You two were very clear yesterday. I was not welcome at my own daughter's wedding. The message was received loud and clear. That's not what we meant. We were stressed. You know how weddings are. Julian, let me ask you something. In these 3 years, have you ever treated me like your girlfriend's mother? Or have you always seen me as an obstacle? There was a long silence. I don't know what you're talking about, Eleanor. I've always respected you. I laughed, a genuine laugh that surprised even the saleswoman.
Calling me an old woman is respect.
Saying I'm a manipulator is respect. Convincing my daughter that my love is toxic is respect. I never said those things. Julian, do you think I'm stupid? I'm 71 years old. I'm not a naive teenager. I know exactly what you've been doing. You've been poisoning my daughter against me since the day you met her. That's a lie. I love Clara. Do you love her, or do you love what she can give you? Because a man who loves a woman doesn't push her away from her family. A man who loves a woman helps her be a better daughter, not a worse one. Clara is an adult who can make her own decisions.
Her own decisions, Julian.
Clara hasn't made a decision of her own since she met you. Everything she thinks, everything she feels, everything she decides first goes through your filter. I signaled to the saleswoman to wrap up the red dress. I was taking it. Eleanor, we didn't call to argue about our relationship. We called to ask you to release the wedding funds. There's the truth. You didn't call to apologize for treating me poorly. You didn't call because you realized you made a mistake. You called for the money. The wedding is tomorrow. We have commitments, vendors to pay. We can't cancel everything at the last minute, and that's my problem. You two decided I wasn't important enough to be at the wedding. Now I'm deciding your wedding isn't important enough for my money. You're being very cruel, Eleanor. Do you really want to ruin your own daughter's wedding?
Cruel?
That word stopped me in my tracks. Julian, do you know what's cruel? Cruel is raising a daughter alone for 43 years and having her shut the door in your face on her wedding day. Cruel is working yourself sick to give your daughter everything and having her treat you like a stranger. Cruel is loving unconditionally and receiving contempt in return. But the money is already committed. People are coming from out of town. It will be a public humiliation.
Exactly.
It will be a public humiliation like the humiliation you put me through yesterday when you treated me as if I were an intruder in my own daughter's life. Eleanor, be reasonable.
We can fix this.
You can come to the wedding. We'll save a special seat for you. A special seat. After paying $63,000, they were offering me a special seat, as if it were charity. A special seat like what? In the back row, in the kitchen, or maybe standing outside watching the cars. My voice grew harder with each word. Don't offer me crumbs after you've taken the whole banquet. Fine, fine. Front row, next to Clara's parents. Julian, I am Clara's mother. I don't need to be next to the parents. I am the closest family she has. Or, at least I was until you brainwashed her. Eleanor, tell me what you want. What do you need to release the money? There it was. The million-dollar question, literally. What I want, Julian, is for my daughter to remember who her mother is. What I want is for her to understand that respect can't be bought with money. What I want is for her to learn that actions have consequences. And how do we do that? Very simple. I want Clara to come to my hotel tonight alone, without you. And I want her to apologize to me, not for the money, but for disrespecting me. And I want her to promise me that she will never again let anyone push her away from her mother. That's emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail. Julian, do you know what emotional blackmail is? It's convincing a daughter that her mother is toxic, so you can control her better. It's making a woman feel guilty for loving her family. It's using love as a weapon of manipulation. I have never done that.
No.
Then explain to me why Clara, who used to call me every day, now only calls when she needs money. Explain to me why Clara, who used to visit every weekend, now comes once a month if I'm lucky. That's normal when people get married. Priorities change. Priorities change, Julian. But family love doesn't disappear unless someone is actively working to destroy it. I hung up the phone without giving him a chance to respond. I was tired of his justifications, his manipulations, his arrogance. But most of all, I was tired of being treated like I was the problem when I was clearly the victim. That night, as I dined alone in the hotel restaurant, I reflected on the whole situation. For the first time in years, I felt free. Free from the constant worry of pleasing Clara. Free from the anxiety of doing something wrong that might push her away. Free from walking on eggshells so as not to upset Julian, because I had understood something fundamental. I hadn't lost my daughter. My daughter had lost herself. And until she found herself again, until she remembered who she was before Julian, there was no relationship to save. My phone vibrated with a text message. It was Clara. Mom, Julian told me about your conversation.
I'm coming to see you tonight.
We need to talk for the first time in 24 hours. I genuinely smiled. Maybe, just maybe, my daughter was starting to wake up. But I was no longer the desperate mother willing to accept any crumb of attention. I was a woman who knew her worth and who was not going to accept anything less than the respect she deserved. The war was just beginning, and this time I had all the weapons. Clara arrived at my suite at 8 o'clock in the evening. When I opened the door, her appearance surprised me. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her hair was disheveled, and she was wearing the same wrinkled clothes from the morning. She looked destroyed, but for the first time in years, she had come alone. "Come in," I said, remaining composed. She entered slowly, looking at the elegant suite in awe. "Mom, this place is incredible." "Yes, it is. When you value yourself, You treat yourself as you deserve, I replied, pouring 2 glasses of wine. Do you want one? Yes, please. I need something to calm my nerves. She took the glass with trembling hands. Mom, I've been thinking all day about our conversation this morning, and I think you were right about a lot of things. About a lot of things? No, Clara, I was right about everything. My voice was firm, but not cruel. The question is whether you're ready to admit it. She sat on the sofa, burying her head in her hands. I don't know what's wrong with me. Mom, it's like I've lost the connection to myself.
You didn't lose it, my love.
It was taken from you. I sat across from her, studying her face. Tell me something, Clara. When was the last time you made an important decision without consulting Julian? She looked up, confused. I don't understand the question. It's very simple. When was the last time you said, "This is what I want regardless of his opinion"? Clara thought for a long time. I don't remember exactly, because for 3 years you haven't been you. You've been the version of you that Julian needs you to be. But he loves me. He tells me I'm perfect for him. Clara, have you ever wondered why you're perfect for him? Is it because he truly knows and accepts you for who you are? Or is it because you've molded your personality to fit what he wants? The tears started to run down her cheeks again. Mom, I'm so confused. Julian says he's helping me grow, but you say he's controlling me.
I don't know who to believe.
Don't believe anyone, Clara. Believe yourself. Listen to your heart, not to outside voices. But how do I do that? I don't even know what my own voice is anymore. Let's start with something simple. Tell me, did you really want such a big, expensive wedding? Clara frowned. Actually, I always dreamed of something more intimate. A small ceremony on the beach with close family. And why wasn't it like that? Because Julian says a wedding is the most important event in a woman's life, that we have to celebrate it in a big way so everyone can see how happy we are. Everyone who cares so much about being impressed, his friends, his work colleagues, his family. She stopped talking suddenly, as if she had just realized something. Mom, I just realized I didn't mention my friends or my family.
Exactly.
This wedding isn't for you, Clara. It's for him. But I agreed. I said yes. Of course you said yes. Julian is very clever. He didn't force you directly. He convinced you it was your idea. I stood up and walked to the window. Clara, do you remember what you were like before you met him? You were more spontaneous, more joyful, more yourself. Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. Mom, is it normal for my fiancé to constantly criticize me, to tell me how to dress, how to talk, who to associate with? My heart sped up. She was finally starting to see reality. No, my love, that's not normal. That's control. But he says he does it because he loves me, because he wants me to be the best version of myself. Clara, the best version of yourself is the authentic version, not the version he wants to mold. I turned to look at her directly. A man who truly loves you accepts you as you are and helps you shine by being yourself. He doesn't change you to fit his idea of perfection. Mom, I'm scared of what? That you're right. That I've made a terrible mistake. That tomorrow I'm going to marry someone who doesn't really know me. And what scares you most about that? That it's too late to change my mind? She stood up abruptly, pacing the room. Mom, everything is paid for. The guests have already arrived. Julian's family came from another state. If I cancel now, it's going to be a horrible scandal. Clara, would you prefer a one-day scandal or a lifetime of unhappiness? My question stopped her in her tracks. A marriage isn't an event, my love. It's a whole life. And if you have doubts now, imagine yourself in 10 years. But Julian will be furious. He'll say I'm crazy, that I'm irresponsible. And does that matter more to you than your own happiness?
No.
But there are no buts, Clara. Either your happiness is more important than his anger or it isn't. It can't be both. Clara sank back onto the sofa. Mom, if I cancel the wedding, I'll lose Julian. And if you don't cancel it, what will you lose? Myself and you. The admission came out like a painful whisper. Clara, I'm going to tell you something I hope you remember for the rest of your life. It is better to be alone and be yourself than to be with someone and be a fake version of yourself. I sat down beside her and took her hands. I was alone for many years after your father left, and they were happy years because I was authentic. Didn't you miss having a partner? Of course I did. But I preferred authentic loneliness to fake companionship. And look, I eventually found real love. But at that time, it wasn't my priority. Real love? When? 5 years ago, I met a wonderful man, Arthur. But I didn't tell you about him because by then, Julian had already convinced you that I was problematic. Her eyes widened like saucers. You have a boyfriend, and you never told me. Clara, I tried to tell you several times, but every time I mentioned I had met someone, you would change the subject or tell me to be careful with men who take advantage of older women. That sounds like something Julian would say.
Exactly.
Because they weren't your words anymore. They were his words coming out of your mouth. I stood up, went to my purse, and took out a photo. Look, it was a photo of Arthur and me on our last trip together. We looked happy, relaxed, in love. Mom, he looks like he really loves you. He adores me and I adore him. But I have never allowed him to change me or to push me away from you. Because when love is real, it doesn't destroy existing relationships. It enriches them. Does he want to meet me? He's dying to meet you. But he respects that I set the time and the manner. He has never pressured me to choose between him and my daughter. The comparison was obvious and painful. Mom, it hurts so much to realize all of this. I know, my love, but the pain of the truth is temporary. The pain of living a lie is for a lifetime. I sat beside her again. Clara, regardless of what you decide about the wedding, I need you to understand something. You are my daughter, and you will always be my daughter, but I will not allow myself to be disrespected. What does that mean? It means that if you choose to stay with Julian and he continues to poison you against me, I will protect my own peace of mind. I will not continue to be the ATM for your relationship or the villain in your love story. Mom, I don't want to lose you. Then don't lose me. But don't expect me to settle for the crumbs of love that Julian allows you to give me. My voice hardened slightly. I deserve a daughter who defends me, who values me, who includes me in her life out of love, not obligation. Clara burst into tears. Mom, I've been horrible to you. I didn't realize what was happening. My love, realizing is the first step. Now the question is, what are you going to do with this new information? Clara cried in my arms for 20 minutes. They were not tears of manipulation or self-pity. They were tears of recognition, of genuine pain for having lost herself. When she finally calmed down, she looked at me with the clearest eyes I had seen in years. Mom, I'm going to cancel the wedding. Her words surprised me, though it was what I had hoped to hear. Are you sure? It's a very big decision. I'm sure. I can't marry someone who has pushed me away from the most important person in my life. I can't marry someone who makes me doubt my own mother. Clara, only cancel the wedding if you truly don't want to marry him. Don't cancel it for me. It's not for you, Mom. It's for me. I've realized I've been living the life he wants, not the life I want. She stood up from the sofa with determination. I'm going home right now, and I'm going to tell him I'm not getting married tomorrow. Do you want me to come with you? No, I have to do this alone, but I need to know that when I walk out of there, I'll have a place to go. You will always have a place with me, my love. Always. I hugged her tightly. But Clara, be prepared. Julian is not going to take this well. He's going to try to manipulate you into changing your mind. I know, but I'm not going to fall for his games anymore. She took my face in her hands. Mom, forgive me for being so blind. Forgive me for doubting your love. Forgive me for letting someone convince me that you were the problem. You're already forgiven, my love. The only thing that matters is that you've come to your senses. I walked her to the door. Call me as soon as you're done talking to him, no matter the hour. After Clara left, I sat on the balcony of my suite with a glass of wine, waiting. I knew the conversation with Julian wouldn't be easy. I knew he would use all his manipulative weapons to make her change her mind. But I also knew that my daughter had awakened, and an awakened woman is very difficult to put back to sleep. My phone rang at 11 o'clock at night. It was Clara, and she sounded agitated. Mom, I'm in my car outside the house. Julian is furious. He screamed horrible things at me. What kind of things? He said I'm crazy. That you brainwashed me? That I'm an irresponsible person who doesn't understand the consequences of her actions. And what did you say to him? I told him that for the first time in 3 years, I'm thinking clearly, that I realized he had pushed me away from you and from myself. He went crazy. Mom, I've never seen him like that. Did he hurt you? Not physically, but her voice broke. Mom, he said that if I leave him now, he'll ruin my life. That he'll tell everyone I'm an unstable lunatic. That he'll make me lose my job. Your job? What does your job have to do with this? He knows my boss. He said he'll tell him I'm an unreliable person, that I can't be depended on for anything important. Clara, that's called blackmail, and it confirms everything I told you about him. I know, but I'm scared. What if he follows through on his threats? My love, a man who threatens you to stay with him doesn't love you. He possesses you, and possession is not love. Mom, can I come to the hotel? I don't want to go back into the house. Of course. Comes immediately. 20 minutes later, Clara arrived at my suite with a small suitcase. She looked pale but determined. I just packed the essentials. I'll come back for the rest of my things tomorrow when he's not there. How did he take the news of the cancellation? At first, he tried to convince me it was just pre-wedding jitters. Then he got angry and started screaming at me. Finally, when he saw I wasn't going to change my mind, he became cold and calculating. That's when he made the threats. Clara, that shift in strategy is typical of manipulators. First, they try to persuade you, then they intimidate you, and finally they threaten you. I sat on the bed next to her. How are you feeling? Scared, but relieved. It's like I've woken up from a nightmare. And what are you going to do tomorrow? The guests will be arriving expecting a wedding. I've already thought about that. I'm going to go to the church early and explain personally to the closest family members. For the rest, we'll put a sign at the entrance. A sign?
Yes.
It will say, the wedding has been canceled by the bride's decision. We apologize for the inconvenience. Simple and direct. I was surprised by her resolve. And Julian? Julian can do whatever he wants. He can make up whatever stories he can think of. The people who truly know me will know I'm not crazy. Clara, I am so proud of you. I know this isn't easy. No, it's not easy. But, Mom, for the first time in years, I feel like myself. And, do you know the best part of all this? What's that? That I don't have to ask anyone for permission to be who I am. That night, Clara slept in the second bedroom of my suite. But before we went to bed, we did something we hadn't done in years. We stayed up late talking, not about problems or drama, but about dreams, plans, and happy memories. For the first time in a long time, my daughter was my daughter again. Mom, will you tell me more about Arthur? Do you really want to know? Yes, I want to know your life, not just be a part of it. I told her about Arthur, about our travels, about how he had brought back the joy of being loved for who I truly am. When am I going to meet him? When you're ready. No pressure, no hidden agenda, only when you feel you want to meet the man who makes your mother happy. I want to meet him, Mom. I want you to know that I support your happiness. Her words filled my heart. Clara, there's something else I want to tell you. Something about your financial future. What do you mean? Tomorrow we're going to see Stephen. I'm going to change my will again. Everything I have will be yours, but with conditions. What conditions? That you never allow anyone to manipulate you using my money. That you use that inheritance to be independent, not to buy love. And that if you ever have children, you teach them the value of family respect. Mom, I don't need your money to love you. I know, my love, but I want you to have it so you never have to depend on anyone. So you never have to endure mistreatment out of financial necessity. That happened to you with my father.
Yes.
That's why it's so important to me that you are financially independent. When we finally went to sleep, for the first time in years, I lay down without the constant anxiety about my relationship with Clara. I had gotten my daughter back, not just physically but emotionally. I had won the most important war of my life, the war for my daughter's soul. But I knew Julian wouldn't stand by idly. A man like him doesn't accept defeat easily. Tomorrow would be a difficult day, but I wouldn't have to face it alone. My daughter was on my side again. The day that should have been the wedding dawned gray and rainy. Clara woke up early, more determined than ever. Mom, I want to go to the church before Julian gets there. I need to speak with Father Alexander and the relatives who have already arrived. Do you want me to come with you?
No.
I have to do this alone, too. But I need to ask you for a favor. Anything you need. Can you unfreeze the money? Not for the wedding, but to pay back the vendors who are not at fault. It would be unfair for them to lose their money because of my decisions. I felt so proud in that moment. My daughter had regained not only her authenticity, but also her sense of justice. Of course, as soon as the bank opens, I'll make the transfer. Thank you, Mom. Now I understand it was never about the money.
It was about respect.
Clara left at 8 o'clock in the morning. I stayed at the hotel, waiting for news and preparing for what I knew was coming, Julian's revenge. I didn't have to wait long. At 10 o'clock in the morning, my phone began to ring with unknown numbers. First call, Eleanor. This is Letitia, Julian's sister. What have you done to Clara? She's acting like a crazy person. Second call, this is Beatrice, Julian's mother. We demand an explanation. You have ruined my son's life. Third call, Eleanor. This is David, the best man. This is a scandal. How could you let Clara do this? I answered every call with the same response. Julian knows exactly why Clara made this decision. If you want answers, ask him, because I knew Julian had told them his version of events where I was the manipulative villain who had destroyed their happiness. But the call that truly surprised me was from a number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Eleanor, this is Ivan, a reporter from the local news channel. We have information that the Julian-Clara wedding was canceled at the last minute due to family interference. Could you give us your version of events? There it was. Julian had called the press. He wanted to turn this into a public scandal to pressure Clara into going back to him. I have no comment for the press, I replied and hung up. But I knew this was only the beginning. Clara returned to the hotel at noon, exhausted but at peace. How did it go? Better than I expected. Father Alexander was very understanding. He said he'd rather have a canceled wedding than an unhappy marriage. And our relatives, most of them understood. Some were upset. But when I explained that I had serious doubts about the relationship, they said I did the right thing.
And Julian?
He arrived as I was finishing explaining the situation. He made a terrible scene, screaming that you had brainwashed me, that I was hysterical, that he had invested 3 years of his life in me. How did people react? Mom, that's when I realized that a lot of people already knew what Julian was really like. His own aunt told me afterward, Clara, my nephew has always been controlling. I'm glad you realized it before the marriage. Really?
Yes.
Apparently, it was no secret to anyone except me. But the conversation was interrupted when Clara's phone began to ring insistently. It was Julian. She hesitated before answering. Put it on speaker, I suggested. I want to hear what he has to say now that his plan has been ruined. Clara, thank God you answered. Listen, we can fix this. I know your mother filled your head with silly ideas, but we can get past it. His voice sounded desperate. Julian, they're not silly ideas. They are things I should have seen a long time ago. Clara, love, you're confused. Your mother is jealous of our relationship. She can't stand that you're happy without her. There he was again, trying to sow doubt. Julian, my mother isn't jealous. She's concerned. And she was right to be. Concerned about what? I love you, Clara. I've given you everything.
No, Julian.
You've taken everything from me. My personality, my relationship with my mother, my self-confidence. That's not love. That's a lie. I've helped you grow to mature. Mature? Does maturing mean being isolated from my family? Does it mean doubting my own feelings? Does it mean needing your approval for everything? Clara's voice grew firmer with each word. Julian, you made me believe my mother was the problem when the problem was you. Clara, don't do this to me. Think of everything we've built together. What have we built, Julian? A relationship where you decide everything and I obey. That's not building. That's controlling. But I love you. Doesn't that count for anything? If you truly loved me, you would never have pushed me away from my mother. If you truly loved me, you would have helped me be a better daughter, not a worse one. Clara looked at me as she spoke, and I saw in her eyes a strength she had lost years ago. Julian, this is over. Don't call me anymore. Wait. What if we talk to your mother? What if we make peace? We can start over. It was incredible how he now wanted to include me once he realized he had underestimated me. No, Julian, there's no going back. And let me tell you something. My mother was right about you from the very beginning. It's a shame I was too blind to see it. Clara, if you leave me, you'll regret it. No one will ever love you like I do. I hope you're right. I hope no one ever loves me like you do, because your love was killing me from the inside. And she hung up immediately. Her phone began to ring again and again and again. Block him, I said. You've had the conversation you needed to have. Now he will try to exhaust you with calls until you answer. Clara blocked Julian's number and sighed in relief. But I knew this wasn't over. I knew men like Julian. They don't accept defeat. They seek revenge. And sure enough, an hour later, his next strategy began. Social media. Clara received screenshots from her friends. Julian had posted on Facebook, "After 3 years together, my fiancé decided to cancel our wedding on the day itself because her mother convinced her I was a bad person." It's sad to see how family manipulation can destroy true love. Mom, he's trying to make me look like a manipulated lunatic. I know, my love, it was predictable. What are you going to do? Respond publicly?
No.
Never get into public wars with manipulators. They are experts at playing the victim. But I am going to do something. What are you going to do? I'm going to tell the world who Eleanor really is and who my daughter is. If Julian wants a media war, he's going to get one, but not with the weapons he expects. I turned to my laptop with determination. Clara, do you trust me? Completely. Mom, it was time for Julian to learn that he had completely underestimated his opponent. I was not just a concerned mother. I was an intelligent woman with resources, with contacts, and with the truth on my side. The real war was just beginning. That afternoon, I opened my laptop and created something I never thought I would, a social media account. But not just any account. An account where I would tell my full story with proof, with dates, with everything. If Julian wanted to play dirty, I was going to teach him how it's done when you have 71 years of experience. Mom, are you sure about this? Clara watched me type my first post nervously. My love, my whole life, I have stayed silent when I've been attacked. I have been the polite lady who doesn't make a scene. But Julian touched my daughter, and I don't forgive anyone for that. My first post was simple but powerful. My name is Eleanor. I am 71 years old, and yesterday my daughter canceled her wedding. Her ex-fiancé is claiming I manipulated her. This is my real story with proof. I attached a photo of myself at the hotel, elegant and dignified, and another photo of Clara and me embracing. In 2 hours, the post had 1,000 shares. In 4 hours, 3,000. People were intrigued. Comments of support started pouring in. Mrs. Eleanor, tell us the truth. Mothers always know. Respect to women who defend their daughters. My second post was more direct. Julian says I manipulated my daughter. Let me show you the last conversations we had before she decided to cancel the wedding. I posted screenshots of his threatening messages, his insults, his blackmail attempts. Does this seem like the behavior of a man in love? The effect was immediate. The comments grew more intense. That man is an abuser. Good thing Clara realized in time. Julian is a classic manipulator. The narrative was changing. But my most powerful post was the third one. Julian says I ruined his life. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped financing a show. I posted a screenshot of the $63,000 transfer I had made for the wedding and another screenshot of when I froze it. A man who truly loves does not measure that love in money. That's when things went viral. Thousands of women began to share their own stories of financial manipulation. Mothers who had gone through similar situations. Daughters who recognized the patterns of control. My story had become a symbol for something bigger. Clara was astonished. Mom, you have 50,000 followers in one day. I know, my love, because there are many women who have lived this. I just put into words what many have felt. And Julian is desperate. Look, my daughter's ex-fiancé had started to respond aggressively on social media, but every response made him look worse. That old woman is lying. Clara was happy until her mother interfered. Eleanor is a professional manipulator. Every comment he made generated more support for us. He's sinking himself, Clara observed. Manipulators don't know how to act when they lose control of the narrative. Mom, many women are writing to me, telling me similar stories, some very sad. That's the power of speaking the truth, my love. The truth resonates. But the final blow came when we least expected it. One of Julian's ex-girlfriends, motivated by my story, decided to speak publicly. Her name was Letitia, and she had dated him for 2 years before he met Clara. Her testimony was devastating. Julian did the exact same thing to me. He pushed me away from my family, controlled my money, made me believe my mother was toxic. When I finally realized it and left him, he also tried to ruin my reputation. Seeing Clara go through the same thing breaks my heart, but I'm so glad she had a mother like Eleanor to defend her. After that testimony, 3 more women came forward, all with nearly identical stories. Julian had a pattern. Clara hadn't been his first victim, but thanks to me, she had been his last. Mom, I feel horrible for all those women. Don't feel horrible, my love. Feel grateful that you realized in time, and feel proud that your story will help other women recognize the signs. A week later, Clara and I were at my house packing up her things from the apartment she had shared with Julian. He had disappeared from social media after the scandal. He had lost his job when his boss saw all the material that had gone viral. His reputation was ruined. Do you feel bad for him? I asked Clara as I folded her clothes. I feel bad for the person I was when I was with him, but not for him. And how do you feel now?
Free.
For the first time in 3 years, I feel completely free. That afternoon, as we were having coffee in my garden, Clara asked me a question that surprised me. Mom, when am I going to meet Arthur? Are you sure you want to meet him? More than sure. I want to meet the man who makes my mother happy. And I want to apologize to him for all the time we wasted because of me. I called Arthur that very night. My love, there's someone who wants to meet you. Clara? Yes, she's ready. Eleanor, I have waited for this moment for 5 years. You don't know how happy you make me. The introductory dinner was the next day. Arthur arrived with flowers for both of us, and with the most genuine smile I had seen in years. Clara, your mother has told me so much about you that I feel like I already know you. Mr. Arthur, I'm so sorry you had to wait so long for this moment. There's nothing to be sorry for, my dear. The important thing is that we're here now. Throughout the dinner, I watched how Arthur naturally included Clara in our conversations. How he respected my role as a mother, how he never tried to compete for my attention. It was the behavior of a self-assured man who didn't need to isolate the woman he loves. Mom, Clara told me at the end of the night, now I understand the difference between real love and possession. Arthur loves you so much that he wants you to be happy in all areas of your life. Julian loved me so much that he wanted to be my only source of happiness. 6 months later, Clara had found a new job. She had made new friends and had started dating a man who encouraged her to talk to me every day. I had sold some of my properties, and Arthur and I had decided to travel the world together. Mom, there's something I want to tell you. We were having lunch at our favorite restaurant, a tradition we had resumed. Tell me, my love. I want to thank you for being strong enough to fight for me, even when I was against you, Clara. That's the difference between a mother and a manipulator. A mother fights for her child's well-being, even when it's hard. A manipulator fights for control, no matter the cost. Do you know what I admire most about all of this?
What's that?
That you never once said, I told you so. You never made me feel stupid for falling for Julian's manipulation. You just helped me get back up because my goal was never to be right, my love. My goal was always to have you back. That night, as I was having dinner with Arthur in our apartment, he told me something I will never forget. Eleanor, what you did for Clara was extraordinary. Not many mothers would have the courage to risk their relationship with their daughter to save her from herself. Do you know what I learned from all of this, Arthur? What's that? That true love sometimes requires being brave. It requires saying no when everyone expects you to say yes. It requires standing up for what's right, even if it makes you look like the villain. And, do you regret anything? Only one thing, that it took me so long to realize that I shouldn't have to apologize for loving fiercely. For years, I thought my motherly love was too much. Now I know that my motherly love was exactly what Clara needed to save herself. I don't regret driving 800 miles for a wedding I wasn't welcome at. I don't regret freezing $63,000. I don't regret fighting for my daughter when she couldn't fight for herself, because I learned that kindness should never be practiced at the expense of self-respect, and that a mother who knows her value raises a daughter who knows her.